right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our special Adventures in Learning, where we are celebrating 20 years of Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley. I'm Rod Johnson, the current director of Shepherd Center, and I want to say, first of all, thank you all for being here today. Wow, great crowd. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. I'm going to make a couple of introductions, and then we're going to kind of get right into our program, and I think we're going to have a really fun morning. I'd like to introduce a few people at this time. We have the first director of Shepherd Center, Sharon Callister, and she's going to be up here in a little bit, but Sharon, right here, give her a round of applause. We have the second director of Shepherd Center here, Todd Porting. Todd, where are you? There's Todd. Welcome. Thank you for coming, Todd. I don't believe Kathy Briggs. Is Kathy here today? I know she maybe wasn't going to make it, but she was the third director, and Lynn Berg, I don't think Lynn is here either, but she was the fourth director, and I'm the fifth director, so 5 directors in the past 20 years for Shepherd Center. We have some former administrative assistants here with us, and Joanne Ferrier. Joanne, right there. Give Joanne a hand right there, Joanne Ferrier. Corrine Clausen. There's Corrine. All right, great to have you here. And our current administrative assistant, Twyla. Where's Twyla? Right here. Thank you. Twyla Geiken. All right. And I tell you what, all past board members of Shepherd Center, would you either stand or raise your hand, and we want to give all of you a round of applause. We got a lot of you here, former board members. All right. Thank you all so very, very much for being here for this very special celebration that we have. And thank you for everything that you've done for Shepherd Center over the years. As I said, I think we're in for a very interesting morning. We're going to look back, and we're going to look ahead, and we're going to look at our present situation. Before our first speaker, though, I just had a couple of reminders. We have a few openings yet. We are having a class tomorrow morning from 10 to noon on the Android phone. So if you got one of those phones and you want to learn how to operate it a little bit better, Dan Bassett is going to be there. He's done this in the past. He's excellent, and he will show you how to work with these phones and what you can do with them. And again, we have a couple more openings. Let Twyla or I or somebody know if you are interested, and we can get you signed up. That's tomorrow morning from 10 till noon. The following Saturday, the 24th, Dan's gonna do a class on the iPhones and the iPads. So we still have a few openings for that as well. But they're really good classes. So if you're interested, let us know. And with that, we are going to get things underway this morning. I would like to, first of all, introduce the current chairman of Shepherd Center, Lauren Evinrude. Lauren, give him a round of applause. Chairman of Shepherd Center.
Thank you, Rod. I just want to echo his welcome. It's so great to see all of you here. This is a special day because it was 20 years ago today, to this date, that this concept became a reality. And you're going to learn about that. Not many nonprofits last 10 years. This one has lasted 20. And I think that's awesome because we continue to grow and serve the needs of our seniors, our elders in the community. And Sharon is going to help you understand how this concept came about and how it has continued. And I'm so proud to be a part of the Shepherd Center, and we have a really sharp board. I think we are probably one of the few nonprofits that I know of that have a waiting list to get on the board. So how about that? So get on that list, and we'll see you soon, hopefully. Anyway, I have a personal reason for being here. My father passed away in Iowa on the family farm, or he lived on the family farm after my mother passed away for 16 years alone. He did not have a Shepherd Center in Decorah, Iowa, or anywhere in Winnebago County that even comes close to what we have here in Cannon Falls. Now, my wife and I lived in Minneapolis for 28 years. We moved to the Cannon River Valley, built our dream timber frame home in the woods, and when we were building, we'd order a pizza, and I'd read the Cannon Beacon and learn a little bit about the town. And I kept seeing Shepherd Center coming up in the Cannon Beacon. And coming out of Minneapolis, as many of you know, there's a lot of turf protection and a lot of issues with nonprofits and government agencies, and I saw enough of that to last me 2 lifetimes, to be honest with you. So when I saw what was happening here with Shepherd Center, I was really impressed. And as we got to know people, Vivian Brage and her husband were the first to welcome us to our new neighborhood. I think they were spies to find out what these people were doing from Minneapolis with cranes and timbers. I think they were sent in there as spies, but I enjoyed meeting Vivian and so many other people, and it's a great place. If you love history and you love Cannon Falls, you're going to really love this program today. When we start our meetings, and I don't take credit for this, Gary Estaby suggested it. He denies it today, but we read our vision statement and our mission statement at every meeting every month to remind us why we are here. And our vision statement, and you have the original mission statement there, and I'm going to read the later one, which is really close, but the semantics change a little bit. Our vision statement is seniors serving the community, period. The mission statement is as follows: the Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley is a nonprofit organization promoting lifelong community involvement for senior adults through intergenerational, interfaith activities which promote significance, purpose, and meaning for fruitful lives. That's our mission statement today, and I think we're doing a pretty good job thanks to all of you. As I went through the photos for Sharon's presentation, I did the scanning and put the PowerPoint together. I noticed a couple of things. One is that Shepherd Center seems to coordinate services across the community, and we'll talk a little more about that later. And obviously to enrich lives of the senior community members 55 plus, and because I come from a public safety background and education background, we provide a safety net for seniors. The Shepherd Center is a place where anyone can come and get a referral, have someone to talk to, arrange for transportation, Meals on Wheels. Twyla coordinates that. I'm a driver for Meals on Wheels. It's a very positive experience. So if anybody wants to help with that, Twyla would like to get your name. So we're promoting that as well. So that is what I saw as a outsider. My wife says we're still outsiders. We've been here almost 20 years, but that's what I saw during that period of time. So I wanted to share that with you. And I wish my father had a chance to have access to a Shepherd Center in his later years. He didn't have that opportunity. So without further ado, I want to introduce Sharon Callister, and she will be sharing the birth of the concept, the creation of early programs, the challenges, the founders, original staff, proudest moments, and that's a biggie for me. She's going to share her proudest moments, and Rod will be doing the same thing as we end the session today. Isn't that cool? We have our founding director and our current director to start and finish the program today. So that's what Sharon's going to be talking about, and here she is.
Thank you, Lauren. I gave Lauren his greatest challenge to date on being the chairman of the board, because I told him right from the beginning that if there's going to be a PowerPoint with this, you need to know that I was created with one techie brain cell, and the chemo had to go kill that back in 2000, and so this is all your baby. And the other one that I need to thank for the pictures and so forth is Yvonne Bakken. Took it upon herself as a member of the first board of trustees to take all the pictures, put together all the archive books, and I certainly couldn't remember all the order of things. So Yvonne, thank you so much for doing those, and those will be in Shepherd Center for as long as it exists as that historian. Thank you. I have to say, in all honesty, that I am more passionate about the Shepherd Center concept today than I was over 21 years ago when I first heard about it. And part of that was it started as just an idea, and now to see how it has impacted people. And just watching you come in this morning, seeing faces that were those pioneers way back at the beginning to those who have been on board in more recent years, and what an exciting celebration this is today. Well, how did Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley be birthed? As I was thinking about this, I truly believe that it came about in one of these ways. It may have been some senior in the Cannon Valley who was thinking, I have so much to offer from my life experience, and I have no way to put that into any kind of a meaningful way. It might have been a senior who was thinking, I really want to continue living in my own home for as long as is wise, but how can I do that? Or it might have been a senior thinking, I just love children. I just love to be a part of children's learning, but what would be an opportunity that I could be a part of that? And I believe that whether those were just personal thoughts, whether they were things that were discussed in groups, or whether they were actually prayers, I believe God heard those desires of the heart, those needs, those prayers. Because now more than ever, as I look back, I realize that what I had was a true call to be the founding director of Shepherd Center. Bear with me, I have note cards, I have outline, and then I have this whole set of that, and I'm to give Lauren the high sign when to change, and I think I already maybe have missed that, so bear with me. Like I said, I'm not a techie at all. Once I get on the roll, I'll get it down. Okay, I think I'm going to put these on just to make sure I can see all the things here. My $1 ones, the ones I paid a lot of money for, I couldn't get to quite work for me, but the $1 ones seemed to work. Okay, so Lauren, I see you had the Luther Seminary, and I didn't give you the clue. You're just really going to have to do more than your share to help me through this. I had been a counselor for 15 years at Randolph High School. And I graduated from Randolph High School with the class of 1990 with the purpose of going to Bethel Seminary. And my thought at that time was that I was going to be a family counselor. But once I got to Bethel Seminary, I heard about senior adult ministry. And I remembered all those students that had, when I was getting to know them, one-on-one conversations, would mention how valuable their grandparents were in their lives. And I remembered students, even those senior boys, the big jocks at Randolph High School, that would come in for grief counseling when a grandparent died. And it was like God brought those memories to switch gears. And the more I read about senior adult ministry, the more I knew that that's why I was at Bethel Seminary, was for senior adult ministry, not family counseling. Luther Seminary was further along in their program for senior adult ministry. And so in 1991, I took an independent study course from, I believe his name was Dr. Mel Kimball at Luther Seminary. And I was able to create my own course that would fit the area I was familiar with, the Cannon Valley. And so my independent course was the needs of seniors in rural Minnesota. And one of the books that I read had a chapter by Dr. Albert Cole, who had begun the Shepherd Center of America in Kansas City, Missouri. And when I read that chapter, I thought, wow, I can imagine this concept fitting into Cannon Falls, Hampton, Vesa, Denison, all these little communities. And so I continued to take classes in senior adult ministry. Then it came to the point where I knew that this was something that God had, and I thought somebody should do this. Somebody should start a senior shepherd center in the Cannon Valley. But I didn't want it to be me because that was way out of my comfort zone. But when I would go to Bethel Seminary, the cornerstone said, the verse from Isaiah, "Who shall I send? Here I am, send me." And sooner or later, I knew that was God was going to help me to do what he was calling me to. So one of my first stops was with the Cannon Churches, the CCIC, Community Churches Interaction Council, and I went to them in March of 1994 while I was still at seminary, and I shared the Shepherd Center of America concept. And all the member churches wanted to partner with Shepherd Center to bring more purpose and meaning to the Cannon Valley seniors. The CCIC also wanted to endorse me as the task force chairperson by underwriting the cost of my May 15th to 20th training at Shepherd Centers of America in Kansas City, Missouri. I had such a valuable, intensive training during that time. And one of the things that struck me from the very beginning about the Shepherd Center model of aging was that it was based on the biblical model of aging in the Old and the New Testament, where instead of what so often happens in our culture, where seniors were considered to be a problem as they aged, the Old and New Testament models of aging were that seniors were highly valued for their life experience, their counsel, their wisdom, and their blessing. And as I thought of the seniors I knew, I thought, that's so true. It was true then, it's true now. It'll always be true. So off to Kansas City, Missouri, I went for that training. And I came back from that training with some major tools that I could use. One of them was back in 1972, Charles Carrot was on a national CBS program, and 10 minutes of that program was featuring Shepherd Center of America. And so I came back with that videotape. And the men were wearing polyester leisure suits. The women had big hair, so it was outdated, by 1994 in that respect. But all the concepts and all the things that seniors were doing in Missouri was right on. And so I had that to use. Then I started asking, because I wasn't 55 yet myself at that time, I started asking around, who's someone in the Cannon Valley that is thought of as a leader, someone who's a person of integrity, that I could go show this videotape to, I could tell about the senior Shepherd Center model and see if this person thinks that this would be something that would fly. And person after person said, Ken Eltoff. I'd never met Ken Eltoff, but I called Midwest Importers. He was still the CEO at that time. Got an appointment with Ken Eltoff, and I think I got a clue of what makes a good CEO that day, because Ken listened to my little presentation, he watched the video, and he made an instant decision. He said, yes, this is something that I want to see happen in the Cannon Valley. And I said, Ken, these are all people back from 1972. They aren't from Cannon Falls. Could I videotape you giving your endorsement? And he said, yes. Came back with a video camera and videotaped that and added Ken at the end. Then I asked, who's someone in the community who has been very active in their younger senior years, but now is more frail and would be needing different kinds of Shepherd Center services? And Grace Kraft was a name that came forward. And so I went to Gracie's home. I told her about the Shepherd Center model, and she said, yes, 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 that would be wonderful. I need some of these things now. And I said, Gracie, would you be willing to be videotaped sharing that? And she was. So then I started meeting with groups like the Chamber of Commerce, was one of the first groups with that 10-minute videotape plus Ken and Gracie added at the end. And I would say that someone at that Chamber of Commerce meeting that was so instrumental to us being where we are today was, after that presentation, Dick Dalton made a beeline up to that table. And he said, Sharon, this is something that I would like to see happen in the Cannon Falls area. Could I interview you? The Beacon will be behind you. And they still are so supportive all these years. So a huge thank you to Dick Dalton for catching that vision right from the beginning. Also came back with a 3-page survey that literally hundreds of seniors were able to fill out. The original one was goldenrod, because I learned at my training that aging eyes, the best color that they can see is goldenrod background, and the worst color is green. So they were originally goldenrod, and it was just a 3-page survey that just, first page was just general information about the senior. The second page was different activities, programs, and so forth that they would be interested in if they were offered. For example, adventures in learning, physical exercise kinds of related things, special interest groups, and so forth. And then the third page was ways they would like to volunteer, a whole list of ways that they could volunteer if they were interested in volunteering. And so we had volunteers then compile all these hundreds of surveys that we were able to get to find out really what were the needs of this specific community. Then it was verbal feedback. And so in addition to meeting with Knights of Columbus and Rotary and all our civic groups, then I was meeting with neighborhood groups. I remember George and Lee Ellison invited their neighbors in rural Cannon Falls that were in that 55 and over group. Arnie and Virginia Germstead, I remember going to their home, and they invited seniors in their neighborhood, sharing the videotape, telling them about Shepherd Center, getting their feedback, having them fill out the surveys. There were 26 churches in about a 15-mile radius around Cannon Falls at that time, 3 Catholic, many Lutheran and various other Protestant denominations. Contacted all of those pastors, asking if I could meet with them individually, or they could have some of the seniors in their congregation come. And what I found out in meeting through all these different groups, people kind of fell into 3 categories. Some people would say, well, we already have Meals on Wheels and the Golden Agers. I don't really think we need anything else. Then there were those people that would say, sounds like a pretty good idea, but I'm going to wait and see. Nobody wanted to get on the bandwagon with a loser. But every single group, there were those who caught that vision and said, wow, this is just what we need. I do want to get involved. And so many, many people getting excited and being involved and do what they could. I remember also talked to seniors at Freeborn Manor, Park Street. I remember one frail little lady came up to me at Park Street Apartments afterwards. And she said, oh, Sharon, I wish this would have been around 20 years earlier, and I could still do more things. She said, all I can do now is pray. I'm frail and confined. I said, that's the most powerful thing you can do. There's something everybody has to offer to get Shepherd Center going in our community. Are we up to the senior festival? Okay. Thank you, Lauren. We wanted to have people in our task force that were known as people of integrity in the community. We wanted to have diversity. We wanted men and women. We wanted young seniors, older seniors, people with lots of education, people with maybe had just an 8th grade education, people that were rural, people that were in town, so we could get the best representation that we could for our community. And those people did come forth. And also from the beginning, we wanted Shepherd Center to not just be a name on paper. We wanted the community to know that this truly was the Shepherd's Center. Those beginning years especially, every single step was so founded on prayer, for prayer guidance. Because after the training, I basically had an 800 number. I remember my husband and I were members of the Congregational Church at that time. Those of you who have been to that church know there's the huge, beautiful stained glass window of the shepherd. And I would go sit on that pew by that stained glass window and say, well, what now? And I would just wait, and a thought would come, and I would share it with different people, and it would come to pass. And I especially remember, this is jumping a little bit further, but after Shepherd Center had been established and it was going well, I thought, well, maybe I don't need to be coming here anymore, because it seems like we're able to do this on our own now. And when I was sitting there, God just brought my eye to that lead sheep in that Good Shepherd, how that lead sheep, the leader, was snuggled close to the shepherd's robes. And I knew that the shepherd needed to always be the true shepherd of Shepherd Center for it to continue to grow and be blessed with that special blessing from our shepherd. Another thing that I wanted to mention at the training was there were 96 Shepherd Centers throughout the United States at that time. And many of those had started with grants, mostly government grants. And what they had founded was financially it was easy at the beginning, but with any grant, the time comes when you have to then, that grant runs out and you have to come up with that equal amount of dollars from the community. So what they recommended was that from the very beginning, Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley not have a grant, but that the community would know that if this is going to happen, it's going to take our whole community. It's going to take the business community, it's going to take the churches, it's going to take the school, it's going to take the farmers, it's going to take the business, that everybody is going to have to be involved financially as well as in other ways for Shepherd Center to get off the ground. And so it was very lean at the beginning, but it is strong now, and that was really very good counsel that I got at the training and that our board agreed with from the beginning. Well, we wanted to get something for our community that would really get the name out of Shepherd Center. And so we decided to have a senior festival October before we even opened our doors. Major, major undertaking. I was mentioning to someone this morning, these retired men, Lori, I'm so glad you're here because Bob was one of those leaders at the beginning. And Bob and these men were going to all the churches, many of the churches, and bringing tables to line the halls of the school. The shepherd had been watching over those aging backs and bones that nobody got hurt. And so I had contacted all the senior resource people in the region to pay a fee to have a table in the halls of the new elementary school. We had a room, I just remembered. You gave me this wonderful tool. Let's see if I can do it. Well, if you can go back, Lauren, to the one you just came from. Okay, so that's an example of a table in the hallway. Another one, Golden Agers even wanted to have a table. Cannon Realty had a table. And clowns were there, and there was variety show, meal, quite an undertaking, but everybody, again, doing their part, and it was very successful. Okay, here we are at our home. Shepherd Centers use many places in the community. St. Ansgar's was a place that has been used from the very beginning. But we still needed to have a home, a place where people could come, where there would be that connection center. And Richard McGuire was the superintendent of Cannon Falls Schools at that time. I requested a meeting with Superintendent McGuire, and I shared about the intergenerational possibilities through Shepherd Center, and he caught that vision right away. He was so excited about having seniors helping with students at the school. And he said, you would be able to use the music room at the old elementary school. It's been used as a boys' locker room for games in the gym. It's been pretty well beat up. When I started, I thought, wow, they must have lost a lot of games because there sure were a lot of punch holes in those walls. But there again, seniors came together to make our home. And this picture, if you could just go back a second, this is just an example. Shirley, I'm glad that you're here today. Ralph Larson from the Vesa area was a gifted worker with wood. He made 2 wonderful oak display areas. Jerry Fredham, Shirley Johnson were painting. He's Shirley Johnson Beckman now. A lot of the painting was done by Jim Gowdy, who was a professional painter. John Higginbotham was doing some painting here. Jim Schneer is he's kind of fixing up some of the punch holes, covering them up. And I remember going to Ben Franklin's store in Cannon Falls at that time and told them that if they would like to contribute fabric for the valences, and everyone said yes, pick out whatever you want. It was just amazing how the community got behind in making our home. Well, I remember the Friday before we opened our doors back in 1995, and Bob Pedersen had been one of the leaders in our mobilizing group. Bob and Al, I'm so glad to see you here today, and Ken Heltoff were our 3 chairman of our mobilizing task force. Then Bob went on to be our first chairman. And Bob came in that Friday and he said, well, Sharon, we've built the car. Will it run? And he'd be so glad, Lori, to know that it's run for 20 years, because Bob spent a lot of time as our first chair. And I'm just so grateful to see you here today, Lori. Again, as I was saying, the Beacon was so supportive. They did a full story of publicity when we began. And I think we can go on to the next one. And the next one, some of the early publicity. Okay, one of our first programs that we had to work out some of the glitches. We started with 3 programs, our center where people could come for information, a cup of coffee, a treat. And we knew that there was a need expressed through our surveys for people that would be visiting not only people at the nursing home but shut-ins. And so we came up with the name of Cheerful Callers. Well, word got around town and beyond that the nursing home in Cannon Falls had this wonderful new program sponsored by Shepherd Center called the Cheerful Call Girls. And the gossip went further and further to the point where we were hearing that elderly gentlemen from all over the state were now on the waiting list to get into the Cannon Falls nursing home because they had this wonderful Shepherd Center Cheerful Call Girls program there. So it went from Cheerful Call Girls to friendly visitors. We thought, I don't think there's any way that could. So, there were a lot of glitches like that. But, we're laughing now, and there was lots of laughter and fun. Working together, trying to find our way through and making mistakes, but having a good laugh and moving on. The thanks from the beginning, we knew we wanted Shepherd Center to be an organization that was full of gratitude for the volunteers, for the community, for the supporters, and so we often included that, and I know that's still included in the articles that Rod does today, the thanks for the different contributions and so forth. Okay. So our first charter board of trustees and staff, Joanne was such a blessing. I wasn't a senior yet at that point, but Joanne was, and so she knew so many people that she had graduated with in Cannon Falls that she knew well, and she could talk to them about Shepherd Center and formally ask if they wanted to volunteer. And so, Joanne, I saw you come in. Where are you now? There. Joanne was such an asset, and Joanne, I'd have to say, Shepherd Center really wouldn't have gotten off the ground like it did without you, because you were the one that grew up here. You knew all the people in the age group that we needed to draw on, and you did such a beautiful job of that, besides being able to read my handwriting to do anything. And then the next picture is the one that we see behind. And so you'll recognize some of these people. But our first chair was Bob Pedersen. Chuck Jacobson, pastor of St. Ansgar's at that time, was on our board. Irma Thompson, Eleanor Miller. Jim Schneer was our first treasurer. Paul Schluter, and still very involved at Shepherd Center. Yvonne, is that you? Yes. Yvonne Bakken. And Meg Judge, I'm so glad to see Meg here today. Al Johnson, John Higginbotham, Helen Clefstead. Is that you, Joanne? Our building, Richard Howden, who had a law enforcement background. Sophie Canelake, Lila Davis. That is Joanne. Trying to help to have a cheater copy right behind me. Someone asked? The top, that top left is me, 20 years ago. That younger looking woman. Then we had our second senior festival. Oh, no, we got our home first. So this was our first, could you believe that had been a boys' locker room, all banged up, and the beautiful original maple floors were shined up. People donated furniture. Basically, all the furnishings were donated. The area rugs, the chairs, everything was donated. Joanne, that picture would have been you, but it got mixed up, and so Joanne was actually our first secretary. But then we had volunteer secretaries that came in Monday through Friday, and Ruth Rolfing was one of those. And so our volunteer secretaries also had a desk. Ruby Magnuson was another one that came in, every week. And they just loved to come and be a secretary at Shepherd. Joanne? And Eleanor Miller. Yeah, we'll have some other pictures of some of the things that she did. I think the next one. Yeah, so Eleanor also was our first, when we had talked about seniors have all these crafts and wonderful handwork. The men had wonderful woodworking things, and nobody even knew or saw it. So we had the gallery wall for many years. That was for 2 months at a time. Yvonne would take a picture, and there was always a Beacon article for it. Para Lee is here today. You were one of the gallery wall presenters. Another gallery wall. Eleanor not only coordinated that, but she also started the trading post where people could bring in books, puzzles, magazines, and so forth, and that is still at Shepherd Center. These are some of the congregation representatives, and program coordinators, Millie Onstead and Mary Ervig were two of the early program coordinators. So these are other representatives of groups that really made Shepherd Center go. This was our first brochure. And this page had the people who had made contributions at various levels to be recognized. And then the back side is probably the next one. And so you can see that our number of programs increased immediately. And whenever there was a new program, seniors themselves needed to want that program, and there needed to be one or two seniors that would be the volunteer program coordinators of that program that would be in charge, and that group met regularly. So we had the Shepherd Center Connection, the grandparents in school, the friendly visitors, and Adventures in Learning was one of our first ones. We had Youth for Hire, high school students or junior high students being hired to help with different things. The chronic pain and illness support group, caregiver support group, Trip for a Day, Elder Network came a little bit later, 55 Alive working with a school for that, Senior Walkers, that was an outside walking group, and we had an advisory council. So Don Detling for CPA, you can see the various, Betty Nelson as for nursing, various people that had expertise in various areas were on our advisory council where we could go to for help. Adventures in Learning was something that I had learned about at the training, and we started doing it the model at the National Way, where there were actually 2 sessions in the morning, each session with 4 classes to choose from. I think it's much better the way it evolved now to having the kind of program we have now. And I have to point out another funny story. We had wonderful Adventures in Learning classes, various things, but this is the one I really want to mention. Al Johnson. And Al Johnson, we had asked you if you would do a class on getting your financial affairs in order. And somehow it got misprinted in the Beacon and the posters that Al was going to be presenting on getting your affairs in order. And do you remember that? You deserve to be a saint just for all the ribbing you got on that one. And now I have to bring it up again and start all over again. You're hoping after 20 years people forgot. But we had so many, really exciting programs. Then in May of that first year, Dr. Albert Cole came from Kansas City, Missouri. He was the founder of Shepherd Centers of America, came to Cannon Falls for several days to meet with our board of trustees, various seniors. And part of the reason that he and Shepherd Center of America were so committed to Cannon Falls was we were the first Shepherd Center in Minnesota, but we were also, of the 96 Shepherd Centers, we were the only one that was rural. So they were very, very interested in finding out how we did things here, and it was such a wonderful boost to have Dr. Cole come. Then we decided, well, why should those high school kids be the only ones that have a prom in the spring? And so as we talked about that, we realized we can have a prom too. And we did have 2 proms. The pictures are mixed up, between the 2. The first year was Sentimental Journey, and the second year was Young at Heart. And boy, did we go all out in that old gym. The first year we actually had a full live orchestra. IBM in Rochester had a orchestra, and they came pro bono and did the live music for us. The second year we had professional DJs that did the music. We had gourmet hors d'oeuvres and decorated to the hilt. There's the orchestra. Mike Johnson was the MC one of the years. All the decorating. There was my mother-in-law. And Paul, I see you dancing with the beautiful woman there. And really had a fantastic time at those senior proms. Then July, of course, took part in the parade. Here's a couple of pictures from a couple of years when we had a presence in the parade. Then my second senior festival in October. Leon Hansen was mayor at that time. He was our MC. Another picture of the crafts room displays, clowns. Where's Meg? Oh, there she is. When Dr. Albert Cole was in Cannon Falls that May, he said there needs to be a community-wide musical type of event that's going to draw people from the whole region. And Al, I don't know if you remember this, but you were the one that said if the men's chorus and the Melodons would come for a reunion concert, that would bring people from the whole Cannon Valley. And you really took that ball and you ran with that. And what a tremendous, Don Grote came all the way, I think it was from Arizona, one of the original Melodons, and $5 for a ticket, back then, 20 years ago. And picture of the Melodons, and then Roger Risty and Mike Johnson helped Mel, let's see, I can't remember what his name was from Denison, the original director. What was his last name? Johnson, thank you. And so what a wonderful event. I think we have another picture of that one. And so we actually took in they donated all the profits to Shepherd Center, and we took in $3,000. And 20 years ago, $3,000 was a lot of money. And that was that concert that enabled us to move into the next year, because our budget was so tight. Joanne and I were basically volunteer, minimum wage pay, but we were getting so much gratification, in other ways, that we both, hung in there with that. But there wouldn't have been enough money to keep our doors open without the proceeds from that concert. So that was a huge, huge blessing. Then November came. Jim Schneer. Is Jim here today? Jim was on the CCIC representing St. Pius Church, and they had been putting on a community Thanksgiving dinner for a while. And Jim said, well, if you would like Shepherd Center to collaborate with that, we could, do that, together. And so we started doing that, and that also is still continuing. The next picture is some of the people on the first group that helped in the kitchen with that. Then we ended the year with having a Christmas party. Joanne, you look really peppy. Would you like to do that again? And Corinne was there also. I see Jean and Bob and some of the people that were doing the gallery wall at that Christmas. And we invited, for example, Don Detling was invited because she was our volunteer CPA, representative accounting. And Meg, what a good picture of you. And you probably told a story at that program. So those that were in leadership volunteers for Shepherd Center were invited to the Christmas party. And note the tree, because Midwest donated a beautiful artificial tree and all the ornaments, and they sent their tree professional staff person to Shepherd Center to set it all up. And so we really had, again, a wonderful time put together by many people. Well, just a few highlights of the proudest moments since 1996 to 1998. Right On did the beautiful banner for us, which we still have. Lauren liked that picture of me up in the storeroom. I think maybe he was thinking, Sharon, I bet you couldn't do that now. And I think you're maybe right. I probably couldn't get up that ladder and go up in that storeroom. Yeah. We made the transition In the meantime, Joanne's dad was in the Cannon Falls nursing home at the time, and so Joanne left as our first secretary and worked at the nursing home, and we were so blessed to have Corrine Clausen join us as our new secretary, and the title was no longer secretary but became administrative assistant. One of our newer programs was Elder Network, and that was working with the Agency for Aging out of Rochester. Mary Doucette came. This was one of our graduating classes. Eddie Nelson, you may recognize in that picture. Mary, I see you were in one of those classes. Several others, both men and women, were trained to be peer counselors to other seniors. Another highlight was Shepherd Center of America was really watching our intergenerational programs. There was not another Shepherd Center there was probably over 100 by that time, or close to it, that had such strong intergenerational programs. And so they invited me to come to their national conference at Kalamazoo, Michigan, to present on our intergenerational programs that October of, I believe it was 1996. And I am way, way behind in my cards, but see if I can remember what some of these are. No, that's okay. If you want to go back to that one, Lauren, see if I can remember what some of those were. We had the grandparents in school. It was right from the beginning. We had an encore program, which was a school program where seniors went in and worked with students, like making the old-fashioned Valentine's things. It was kind of beyond the academic reading. But some of the working in small groups of students with some of the old-fashioned kinds of things from previous generations. We had hockey grandparents. We were asked by whoever was in the hockey group at that time if there would be seniors that could come in the warming house just to kind of chat with the kids and to see that everything was going fine. And foster grandparent program had started, and that was a through Lutheran Brotherhood. Is that right, Todd? Lutheran Brotherhood? I'm trying to think if it's the right.
Yeah, Lutheran Social.
Lutheran Social, thank you so much. And seniors volunteered for a very, very small stipend from 12 to 20 hours at the elementary school, middle school, high school. And many of them, it was 20 hours. I know Jim Schneer was 20 hours, Mallory Ekstrom, and even those middle school boys. I remember Mallory saying when they had a field trip, they wanted Grandma Mallory to come with. Those kids at that age level who would not talk to their parents about anything were confiding in these foster grandparents at school and just loved having these people there. There were some other ones too, but I don't have my notes, so we'll go ahead to this. The senior prom continued, Adventures in Learning continued. I like this pair of Roger and Laura Tudewall. The senior festival and so forth, continuation of some of the programs. The prom, the ladies who did the gourmet refreshments. Millie teaching probably, I don't know if you were teaching on Norway that class, Adventures in Learning. Senior prom, there's my handsome former husband. My sweetheart since I was 19. Gotta look at that one again, that picture of him. Arnie Germstead and Bill Callister were singing at one of the proms. Bob Pedersen teaching golf at Adventures in Learning. The brochure at the time of the transition, you can see how many different programs were added from when we started with the 3. 3 years later, we had quite a full programs and services. Things had changed in my family. Colin had been a commuting counselor and a full-time crop farmer and a full-time hog operation with 480 feeder pigs, and commuting up to White Bear Lake schools and for a number of years, and said, we just need to simplify our lifestyle some. And so we sold our cropland. We decided we would live in Woodbury, be close to his school job for the last 5 years before he retired. And we made that decision just around Christmas time. And so I told my board in January of 1998 that I would be leaving, but not until the summer. So we could have 6 months to find a new director, to get that new director, well trained. And I know there was a sense of panic that how can we find someone who's willing to work for a low salary, be passionate about seniors, and have the skills, the background needed. And talk about the shepherd answering our prayers. Our search committee, we prayed that God would show us who his choice was to be the next director, and that we would be in unity. We had 5 applicants. And Yvonne, again, I have to thank you, because we put the ad in the Beacon. And Yvonne said, well, let's put it in the Shopper too, because there might be someone who doesn't get the Beacon, but they'd see the Shopper. And Yvonne said, let's put a shepherd staff. And here was this wonderfully trained man living in rural Welsh who didn't even get the Beacon, but he glanced at the Shopper and he sees the staff. And because he is a shepherd, it catches his eye. And it was like God was saying, okay, this is like finding a needle in the haystack. I'm going to make it real easy for your search committee. It's going to be a shepherd to be the next director of the Shepherd Center. It's the shepherd. And Todd called, and he was asking questions, and very, very well qualified, and finally came to interview, and we knew that this tall, handsome Dutch man, shepherd from rural Welsh, was who God was bringing, and I would say God was calling, as he called me, to be the next. So the shepherd was just watching over at every step, answering those needs and those prayers. Well, the board said when I left that summer of '98, they said, Sharon, we just really want to have an open house appreciation for you at Stonehouse. And I said, oh, people don't do that till they've been involved for 25, 30 years and retire. I've only given 5 years of my life, to this. I don't think anybody's even going to come. So I was pretty nervous about that. But it was just wonderful. And these are just some of the representatives. Eleanor, again, at the guest book, and signing in. I see some other familiar faces in this picture that were there. And I mentioned someone like Fiona Fletcher from Body Works. She and Kurt Beisel, when we started our therapeutic swimming at Saratoga Inn, because it was the only pool for that, John Birch and Fern Peterson had come in and say, is there any way Shepherd Center can work with the Saratoga so we can have aquatic therapy? And that came to pass. And Fiona and Kurt Beisel, the physical therapist, would give up their lunch hours to go to the pool at the Saratoga Inn to give one-on-one training to John and Fern and all the other ones that came on what individual exercises they could do in the pool. And so these are people younger than seniors, but they did their part to make it too. I'd like to close with this little boy, Hunter Johnson. Grandma Mavis is here today. He was at that appreciation. And I wanted to close with Hunter, because Hunter grew up with Shepherd Center. He graduated from Cannon Falls High School last spring. He's a freshman at Gustavus now. And this is the part of our intergenerational program that I would hope that if I were to have a conversation with Hunter and say, Hunter, what do you think is the value of people as they age? And I know Hunter has wonderful involved grandparents, but he also would have had a grandparent in school. He would have had some of those school programs during those years. And I would hope that Hunter would say that I think they are valuable. And I believe that if I said, do you see that seniors are valuable in our community for their life experience, their wisdom, their counsel, and their blessing, that Hunter would say, yes, that has been my experience. And that's what we want. That's what we want for the children of our community, to not grow up thinking as people get old, they're just a problem, but that they would see, the value. I want to close by just asking all of you to just take a few seconds to just look around you at each other that are in this room. Turn all the way around. If you can get those necks to turn all the way around. I wanted you to do that because I want you to realize how valuable you are, how valuable each one in this room is to our shepherd, to our community, to each other, that you do have a life experience that's still building. You do have wisdom from the life you've lived. You do have counsel. You can say to a young couple that's been married a few months, a few years, and they've had their first big fight, and they think, well, we're just going to hang it up. You could say, we've made it 40 years, 50 years. Yeah, you have some hard times, but hang in there. Don't give up right away. And you do have a blessing that you can pass on. Another thing I want to mention, it was very emotional for me to look through all those pictures because some of those dear pioneers that I grew to love so much aren't with us anymore. They have left a legacy. Part of their legacy is Shepherd Center. But all of us here today are still living. We still have an opportunity to be living the legacy that we want to leave behind us. And I urge each of us to be thinking about how we want that legacy to be. I would appreciate it if you would join me in a prayer before I pass it on to the next person. Dear Heavenly Father, you have been and continue to be our great shepherd. You are the shepherd of Shepherd Center from its very conception. We thank you so much for your faithfulness in raising up a conceived child to a young adult of 20 years old. We pray that you will continue to have your hand of blessing and favor and guidance on Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley. Amen.
Is there any doubt that she is still enthusiastic about the Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley? I didn't know her when she started, but I think she is fantastic. And I just want to tell you that she is recovering from the flu. And yesterday, she didn't know if she was going to make it. I think she's done a great job. So thank you so much, Sharon. I just want to conclude here before we break with a recognition of the support that comes from the community. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that. But if you look at the 26 area churches, the business sector, the Cannon Falls Police, the Cannon Falls Schools, the Goodhue County Sheriff, healthcare providers, senior care centers, and transportation services, just to mention a few. Now, I mentioned that I'm really concerned about safety. My grandkids, I have 12 grandkids, and I remind them that safety is your middle name. And I have one grandson that actually told his teacher that his name was Oscar Safety Paulson because he's into safety. So on your table, you have something called a file of life. And this comes compliments to you from the Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley and the Triad organization of Minnesota and our local Triad chapter here in Cannon Falls. I want to mention that it is a mechanism to provide the first responders to your medical information, prescriptions, anything special. If you call 911 and you're not able to talk to them and you're alone, the recommendation is to put the sticker on your door or the glove box of your car if you drive, and then there's a form in the inside that you probably don't want to fill out yourself. Maybe have a family member help or someone in the medical area or someone from the Cannon Falls Police or the EMTs or whatever. These are in all the ambulances, the police cars, and the sheriff's squads. And if they find somebody who does need to have this at their home, wherever they're living, for the first responders. I've been a first responder in my 25 years with Minneapolis Police, and I understand that when you arrive, if you're the closest police officer, if you get there before the rescue squad or the ambulance, and you don't know what's wrong with the person that's on the floor or unresponsive, you're guessing at what has to happen next. Normally you do CPR if that's necessary, you check for vital signs, but it's so nice for the EMTs to have this in their hand so that they can start to deliver the right amount of service to you if you can't tell them what your problems are. So that's what this is, and we have many more packets at the Shepherd Center. We ordered 500, paid for them because we thought it was a good way to provide a safety net for our seniors and anyone in the community. You don't have to be a senior to use this. I do Meals on Wheels, and I've seen this now at several homes where I deliver, and it makes me feel good that we were able to provide that for our seniors.
Again, wonderful, wonderful presentation from Sharon. That was so interesting. Appreciate it. We're going to continue with our program here, our Adventures in Learning, and our 20-year anniversary of Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley. And at this time, it's an honor to turn things over to the current Vice Chair of Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley, Mr. John Obert. John.
Thank you, thank you. If my voice is a little weak today, I think you can hear it's not normal. I'm struggling with a head cold, starting to get over it, but I'd like to start my part of this as saying the car was built and it is running. Sharon, it is running. So we'll talk about a little bit how it's running now. Currently, we're really fortunate. I think everybody that you know, we have Rod Johnson as our director, our 5th director, who does an outstanding job. Rod has so many contacts in the community and around the tri-state area. This is really fantastic. And Twyla does such a superior job down at the center. I think you all know that. She just does a wonderful job. So we have great leadership in our office. And this is our executive council at this time, so you can meet everybody. Most of you know them all. Diane Latterall's here. Diane, where are you at? Right over there. She's our new secretary. Jim Altoff's our treasurer. I'm president chair-elect for next year, and I served under Lauren this past year as vice chair too, and Lauren has been our chairman. Now, we have gone to a new structure in our chairmanships. We now are going to go to a chairman-elect, chairman, and past chair. A lot of organizations do that, and we think that's going to benefit our whole operation a lot because you go in like, what's going on? Like this year, then you learn, then you kind of take over, and then you're around for advice once that 3rd year comes. Putting the history book together, I noticed that back years ago they did do that some and then left that system for some reason. This is our whole board. On the back row, Bill Altoff, who you all know. Gary Osterby is here. Dennis Shulquist is here. Jim Altoff, myself in the back row, Dick Mensing, and Lauren. Front row, Jim Nelson, who is here this morning. Helen Bauman's here. Diane's here. Joyce Fahlink. I don't know. Joyce, are you here today? Yes. Oh, right there. Sorry about that. Jerry Torkelson's here, and Paul's here. Now, Paul isn't really a member of our board, but he is past director, and we appreciate his time, Paul, coming and bringing your expertise back to our current board. These are our new members this year, and Rod did mention to everybody that we are very fortunate now to have a group of people that are ready to come on the board. Most organizations, it's like pulling teeth, you know, to get people to serve on a board, and that isn't the case with Shepherd Center for some reason. I've served at the church here many years, and I know what a struggle it is for us to fill out our board from year to year to year. And so we're very, very fortunate. So if you'd like to get your name on a waiting list, why we'll write that down. The structure now is like this, everybody. We have 3 core areas. We have education, we have fundraising, and we have service. This past year, I chaired the Education Committee, Jim Altoff, the Finance Committee, fundraising, I'm sorry, and Rube Boykin was our service committee person. Then you can see the people that served on that, each of the committees. Everybody's asked to serve on a committee, one of these three. This was Lauren's idea to break it down into 3 core areas, and then we build off that. So now my job today is to kind of explain to you what's involved with each core area and what we're doing. Show you a few pictures of what's going on. Adventures in Learning is, of course, one of our most successful activities. I think you all know. We try to put on 4 programs annually. This is our first one for this year, today. Topics are chosen by the Shepherd Center Board of Directors and from you. I would ask you to bring your ideas to the center, and we will certainly consider them if you think of a program that would be beneficial. And we offer programs basically in February, April, September, and November. We did move this February one up to January because of the celebration of the anniversary. So many thanks to everybody that works on these different programs for us all year. Our first one last year was Heather Sharp, and then we also had the I'm trying to think of that. Caring Bridge involved with that, and Sharon was here to share her background with Caring Bridge if you were with us for that one. It was an excellent program. This was the Raptor Center one. We had it right down here. We had the eagle down here and the owls and the whole works. How many were here that day? Anybody? It was a great program. You missed a good one if you didn't come. The young man over there, he works for the Raptor Center, and we learned a lot about those big birds. And then, of course, Laura gave us a great background on just the small birds that live in the Cannon Falls area. She did a great job. Our next Adventures in Learning was the Mayo Clinic Hospital Tour. I think we had the best tour because we had a smaller group, and we got to spend a lot of time out there if you were with us that day. All I can say, we got a fantastic hospital, don't we, here? No. Boy, there's so much technology out there, it's unbelievable. And we were privileged to have Kurt Beisel and his team gave a presentation to our group that day when we were out at the hospital. Our next program was in November. November tends to be our veterans program for the year. This year we had Sarah Peer talk to us. She talked to us about what it was like to be a veteran's wife when you were serving overseas. She did an outstanding job. And then Dwayne Hermanson, who all of us know Dwayne, he was an Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran, served in Kuwait at that time, spoke to the group too. Great program. So that's what we did this past year in Adventures in Learning, and we want to thank all of the ladies that help us in the kitchen for these programs throughout the year. We really appreciate that. Book Buddies has really been a fantastic program. I don't know what year it started, everybody, but it's been around here quite a while. We're working with the elementary school over there, and many thanks to all of you who read. Any readers here today? Rod Johnson's here? No? Anybody else I missed here? But if you'd like to be a reader, we could always use more readers. And if you can't come all the time, we're suggesting maybe you could partner with somebody, and maybe every other week you could read. They are especially looking for men, guys. They would like to have more readers that are men to read to the kids. So, not that you ladies aren't doing a good job, but they would like to get a few more men. So consider it. Contact us if you'd be interested. We did get a $5,000 grant this year from the Timberwolves to use for our Book Buddy program. And we have been buying books for the elementary grades over there. And we plan to do, until the money runs out, continue buying the books for the school. We also bought a mobile bookshelf unit where they can roll that bookshelf out to the lobby area and take the books out and then put them back in there, and it's all lockable and everything. So the book should last a long time. So that's the group that went up that night, and there were some other folks that went up with us too, but it's quite an honor to get $5,000 grant from the Wolves. And that's just a shot of the Book Buddy program in action. You can see her, look at the intensity on the kids. I think it really shows that it's really working. Computer assistance programs, we try to offer 2 to 3 computer assistance workshops a year. We've been fortunate to have Dan Bassett, Jim Bassett's son. Jim's out here somewhere. Help us on that, and Dan has an excellent background in technology. So if you got a new iPad or a new smartphone, and those 2 workshops that Rod talked about, I'd really encourage you to go, because he's going to hook that up to our monitor down at the Shepherd Center and just take you through it step by step. For $10, I mean, you can't get a better workshop than what Dan can do. And he's limiting the class to 10, so I think you're up to 8, Rod, right now. So we could use 2 more. Last year we did the same ones. We thought we'd basically just repeat them because attendance was good last year, and we thought there's more of you. I don't know, I don't even have a smartphone yet. I'd like to get one. Julie and I have been talking about it, but we haven't got them yet. So if you're new to it, well, I think this would be good. There's Jim working there. Dan, I'm sorry, I got his dad's name up there. Oh well. Anyway, Dan does a really great job in putting that on. Creative experiences, we've been trying to add some things to that. We have some quilters. In fact, when I put this little history book together, I'll talk to you about that later. I didn't even know we had a quilters group. So I'm still learning what's going on in the Shepherd Center. Do you guys meet on a certain day? Any quilters here? Or not? Okay. We had an over 60 softball program we started this summer. And I'll show you a few pictures of the group in here. We had a great time doing that. I kind of shared what Vet Tix is, and I'll talk more about that. And we had a free concert at John Birch at the John Birch Park. So any activities that you'd like to participate in, don't forget about some of these. There's our quilters in action. There's little Pagel working hard there. This is our softball group. What a great group, huh? Jim Nelson sponsored t-shirts for us. We're the Boomers. And that terminology comes from we're the baby boomers, right? So that's where it came from. So somebody suggested that, and that's what we've been doing. We meet Tuesdays down at the ballpark, down below by the dump area down there. We just choose up teams and play, have a good time for about an hour and a half every Tuesday. We did play some games this year too. We played Owatonna seniors, and we played Northfield seniors, a couple games each. But most of the time we just played among ourselves. I think everybody had a good time just doing that. But some of us want to be a little more competitive, then the games kind of came in. But our main thing is to get everybody involved. So that's our group. There's an action shot when we played Northfield. You can see some of the guys there. Vet Tix. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, everybody. It's if you're a veteran or you know somebody that is, you can go to vettix.com and register. They're going to check you out to see if you were a veteran and if you were honorably discharged. If you were, then you become eligible for free tickets through their website to such Twins, Wolves, the Lynx, theater shows, all kinds of things. So if you know of anybody that should know about this, have them get in contact with me, and I can help them get through it. It's a great program. So Julie and I and Laura went to a Twins game, and if you show a sign that that sign we got there, then you get extra points to get other tickets later on. So that's why the sign's all in there. But great program. There's our John Birch Park concert, the Haining family. We had a great turnout that night, and I think Shepherd Center is planning on repeating something of that nature this late summer or fall. So it went over really, really well. We were happy about it. Day trips. We offer 3 to 4 day trips a year now. This year our trips included a Wolves game, a Twins game, and a Jesse James Tour activity. So we only had 3 this year, but watch for these opportunities too for the future. This is the Timberwolves group that went up and saw them play. This is a couple shots of our Twins trip, and that's already scheduled, Rod, for May, right?
Yeah.
So that's
27th, I think.
May 27th, if you want to put that down or keep it in mind. There's some, I thought I had 2 slides in there of that. I guess I only had 1. But we had a nice crowd last year. This is our Jesse James tour, few shots on it. The map up there is the tour, the actual tour that took place. Then you got Jesse down there, and the guy that was responsible for that is Bob Roll, and Bob's over there. We want to thank Bob very much for planning this. He's a historian, especially I think he loves to study the James family in particular. And I think everybody that went had a good time on that tour. I missed it because it was a Saturday and the Gophers were playing. That was a bummer. Yeah, yep. So, looks like some troublemakers on that bus too there. Feature publication. We annually send out an annual or newsletter. This year we added color to it, everybody, and it made a world of difference. Just by adding color to it, our response is up how much, Rod? 200%? Or
It's up significantly.
significantly. So we thank you for that, and he's holding one up. I think I got a shot of it in here too, and put the boomers on the front too, so maybe that drew some money too, I don't know. Scrabble continues on Thursdays, and I don't know if they play other games. I think primarily it's been Scrabble, but that is still taking place down at the Shepherd Center. So please come to that if you think you'd enjoy that. There's some of our Scrabble players there. I don't know who won that day. Group travel. We annually have one large trip each year. Discussion is starting already about where we're going this year. There will be one. We don't know where yet. Some places have been discussed. If you have input or thoughts on that, please, again, bring them into Rod or Twyla, and we'd consider it. Washington, D.C. was our trip this year. And as my sign says, looks like a bunch of troublemakers on this trip too, especially in the lower right. And then his brother is standing right behind him there. The photo on the left is kind of a neat photo. If you look at it carefully, it's Lauren taking a picture of the Vietnam Memorial, and his image is reflecting. So I just stuck a couple of pictures in there of some of the things that people enjoyed while they were down there. Triad. Shepherd Center has been very involved with Triad programming since it began in Cannon Falls, and continues to meet everybody on the second Wednesday of the month at the Shepherd Center at 10 o'clock. Rosie Schluter continues to be the chairperson for that program, and she just does a marvelous job with it. I don't know how she finds time to do other things beside write her article for the paper, but Rosie does a great job on this, and those of us working with her really recognize that. This year, Cannon Falls will be sponsoring the Minnesota State Triad Conference at the Treasure Island Casino and Resort. So work has just begun on that now, and well, it has been going, but a lot of work to do on that yet. There's some just some shots. Our programs all deal with something to do with law enforcement in some fashion or form, and we've just had tremendous speakers volunteer to come in to Triad. If you haven't come to Triad, we'd encourage you to come. We've outgrown our room a little bit down there already, but we'll find a place to put it. And we did send a delegation up to the Minnesota State 2014 conference this year just to do some scouting. And you can see all the people that went up there. Tom Wallner on this side, Deputy Sheriff for Goodhue County, is the chair, I believe, Rosie, is that right, of the conference planning for this year. Tom is very active in our triad, as is our Sheriff's Department as a whole in Goodhue County and the Cannon Falls Police Department. Business fund appeal, going into fund where we get our money now, and it's kind of interesting listening to Sharon talk about how tight things were when I had heard that too, that boy, it's hard to even pay the bills and everything. I can tell you at this time we're in good financial condition. And no numbers, not that we wouldn't share the numbers, but all I can tell you is that we're in really good condition financially. So due to all of you. Business appeal letters have been sent out annually, and that has been very good this year as well. Special thanks to all the businesses supporting all the programs that we sponsor throughout the year. Concerts and special events is another fundraiser. This is our primary fundraiser, and I think all of you know how successful that has been for us. We've been so successful, there's other people trying to ride along with us on this. Because sometimes these concerts come into Cannon Falls, and we don't have anything to do with them. Just to point that out to you. But sometimes they ask us if we'll come down and usher and do some things like that, and that's what we're running into a little bit. We've had sellouts for the last 2 concerts, 600 plus. And Rod, I got ahead of you here. Do you want to make a comment? I'll let him talk about that. These are the last 4 concerts. 4 years ago, we had a Nashville act with Tim Watson. Then we had Ricky Skaggs here. Then we had The Day the Music Died with a Buddy Holly theme. And last year we had the Ricky Nelson's Sons here. So that's the last 4. Great concerts. I can't think a small community like we have could bring this kind of music into their community. If you haven't come to these, well, I hope you can come in the future. As I said, it's our primary fundraiser, and that's our crowd. If you haven't been to it, that's what it looks like that night, where we fill the auditorium up and down. So Rod's heard the entertainers talk about the auditorium that we have here in Cannon Falls. It's for a small community, again, it's just unheard of to have something like that. So we're very fortunate to have that. The story on this picture, and I really like this picture, these girls were not part of his act. They dressed up like that and came down from Minneapolis for the show. So we made them take a picture with John there that night. Don't they look sharp? Does that bring back memories, everybody? I grew up in Charles City, Iowa, and Clear Lake was only 35 miles west of Charles City, and my age group went over there, dances all the time at the surf ballroom. And there's our Ricky Nelson show. It was really, really an excellent show. Another program we have for fundraising, and this is very successful too. I'm not sure, I can't remember the numbers and what it brings in, but it's if you turn in your food receipts to Shepherd Center, they're counted monthly. I think that's correct, isn't it, Rod? Or is it less than that? Steve, you're here. How often you guys count? Is it more about once a month, or what do you think? Anyway, all those are added up, and that brings in a little bit of money for us from the Econo food chain. All right, memorials, gifts, and honorariums. We do receive those occasionally from somebody that leaves a little something to the Shepherd Center when they pass away. We did have one this. We think we're going to have one this past year, but we haven't got all the results on that. I don't believe at this point. Is that correct, Rod?
Correct.
Yeah, but we think there's one sitting there. We're involved with the church interaction council yet, as Sharon talked about, and we work with them on the programs that you see down at the bottom: food shelf, community table, Meals on Wheels, and the community Thanksgiving dinner, and maybe some other things that pop up from time to time. Cannon Valley Fair is again one of our big fundraisers, and we really appreciate if you could get a time block where you could help us out, especially on the 4th. Rest of the days are pretty easy, but the 4th of July tends to be a real headache for when we do that. Computer access into service activities here. We do have computers down at the center, and you're welcome to use those, just to point that out to you anytime, and also internet services. Triad programs all of our programs basically are taped by a cable, as Jim and Mr. Gesme are doing today, and they're played back on the community cable here in Cannon Falls. Our thanks to the cable company for all they do for us in that regard. Community table is another activity. I'll kind of go through these kind of quick now. We can always use cook servers and so on for that community table. That's usually in August for our group. Elderly Justice Program, if you got questions and you don't know who to call or what to do, we offer some direction for you if you need some help on anything. Scams, watch out everybody for those. We had an interesting program at Triad, and that is a major problem. I would basically tell seniors, don't trust anybody on the phone unless you know who you're talking to. Be careful. Information and referrals, we're doing a lot of that too, and we're trying to maybe this handyman one, work on that this year to see if somebody calls in, they got a special problem, and maybe they don't have the income to hire somebody, maybe we can get some folks to help us do some of that. So that's the idea there. Meals on Wheels continues to be a really great program. My wife Julie's involved with that. There's some of the Meals on Wheels people just enjoying, I think that was at a thank you banquet or luncheon or something here. Medical supply exchange, again, if you need some health aids and you don't have them and you don't want to buy them, they are around as far as crutches, wheelchairs, and other health aids. We kind of have some places in mind where you could get some help in securing those. Mission and service, this one's probably gearing up now, am I right, Paul? Tax assistance program. Again, if you need some help filing your taxes, you don't want to go to tax accountant for some reason, you just got a basic filing to do, check in with the center, and they'll assign you to one of our folks to do that. We also have the health fair, and Thanksgiving dinner is another one. These are our tax folks that help us out. Does that remain about the same, Paul, every year? Pretty much, I'm assuming. And this is our health fair at the high school that we have in the spring. And then this is, you know him, Pastor Rudd. He was kind of a baby in this, so I just put the... But in closing, I'd just like to encourage all of you here, if you're not real involved with the Shepherd Center today, and I was talking with a couple that said they weren't doing too much yet, you can always get involved. I know I retired in 2011, and Glenn Arnson walked up to me and said, maybe you'd like to do that. And I thought about it, and had the time now. I think Lauren's the same way. I decided to give it a shot for at least a year. Well, I think I could pretty safely say I'm going to serve out 2 terms. Give back to your community, right? That's my idea. And this community has blessed my family since we came here in 1971. So that's it. So again, Sharon, car was built, and it is running.
Again, thank you, John. I tell you, John put a lot of work into this, and so did Lauren and Sharon. Thank all of you for being here and sharing some of the. It's fun. It's fun to look back and to see where we're at for Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley, and I hope you're enjoying this. I've really enjoyed this morning and the 20th anniversary celebration here. Thank you all again for attending. Thank you, Sharon, for your vision 20-some years ago to get this thing going, and thank you to the past directors and assistant directors and the board members and the volunteers. I think all of you here today you've all had something really good to do with Shepherd Center, you know, and I think it's been a great 20 years. Sharon and I were actually visiting when we started planning this, and Sharon made a comment that I really agreed with. She said, you know, we've had 5 directors here at Shepherd Center, and if you look at each director brought something special and unique to the table, and I think that's a good thing. I think that has been a good thing over the past 20 years. I've been director now for, I believe, 4 years, and it's something I really enjoy. You know, I get to interact with great folks like you and this wonderful community of Cannon Falls and the Cannon Valley area, and it is very enjoyable. I remember 1 month after I started, we went down to the Chamber's first Thursday event. You know, they set it up in the street and everything. We had a booth there, and it was just a beautiful summer evening. I'd been on the job a month, and the booth next to us was the clinic, and they were giving free blood pressure checks. And I thought, well, might as well get my blood pressure checked. So I went over there. They checked my blood pressure, not once, but twice. And the one checking it looked at me, and she says, I think you should make an appointment with your doctor. She says, you have very high blood pressure. And I always remember Betty Nelson was standing there, former board member, and she goes, wow, Rod, only a month on the job, and you've already got high blood pressure. So I remember that, Betty. I don't think it was the job, and we got it under control now, so we're all good. We're all good. This morning we heard about the history of Shepherd Center, and Sharon, you know, shared that with us. We heard about where we're at right now, and John did a great job there. But what about the future? You know, I think a lot of you are aware we hold a retreat every January. Shepherd Center does, where we get together. In fact, the last few years we've done it right here at St. Ansgar's, and we spend most of the day, and we just talk about what's happening, where can we go, you know, do a little brainstorming. We also enjoy some pizza at the end, which is also nice, but we kind of try to map out the upcoming year, and we just had our retreat earlier this month. I think it was a good one. We talked about some possible new programs that we're looking at, and I'll share that with you this morning. One of the things we're looking at is maybe offering a service to widows, widowers, divorcees, and so on, where we could have a service that would help, say, women with maintenance around the house. If they've got some minor problems or something that needs to be taken care of, we would hopefully have a volunteer that could come and help. And then the same for the men that are alone. Maybe they need help with cooking or laundry or things like that, and we would ask people to volunteer to help go out and do that. So that's a program we're looking at. We haven't come up with a name yet, but we're considering something like that. We're also looking at a program that we might call the calling program, where this would entail having volunteers making phone calls to seniors who are alone, or maybe they don't have any family in the area, And this would not only be for just safety reasons, but maybe a chance to visit too. And we're looking at maybe setting up a daily or maybe a weekly schedule where, give them a phone call, see if everything's fine. And we'll be looking for volunteers for that as well. On the same line, we also might be looking at a program where we actually physically visit, a visiting program where we could use volunteers to just stop by, visit with seniors who are alone or lonely. Another thing we're considering is Seniors Helping Seniors, where this program would involve training volunteers to work with seniors as they experience issues with, life transitions, mental health, depression. And the main reason for this would be to improve the quality of life for seniors. This is, our first Adventures in Learning, and that's another program we're really looking at just maybe cranking it up a notch. We're really talking about bringing in some top-notch speakers for our Adventures in Learning, and be watching because we're working on some really, really, like I said, top-notch speakers to come in, and we're hoping with that we also will see, increased attendance. I mean, we have great attendance and we've had great programs, but we're going to really look at maybe even trying to improve that even more. And of course, we're going to continue the programs that we are currently offering. Many of the programs that you heard John talk about already, we of course will continue those. One thing we need, and will always need, is you. I mean, we need seniors. We need the community. Why is this important, you ask? Well, I want to tell you a little story. Now, this actually came in one of our Christmas cards this year. This gentleman is a bagpipe player, and it goes like this. Time is like a river. You cannot touch the water twice because the flow that has passed will never pass again. Enjoy every moment of life. As a bagpiper, I play many gigs. Recently, I was asked by a funeral director to play at a graveside service for a homeless man. He had no family, he had no friends. So the service was to be at a little cemetery in the rural backcountry. As I was not familiar with the backwoods, I got lost. And being a typical man, I didn't stop to ask for directions. I finally arrived an hour late and saw the funeral guy had evidently gone. The hearse was nowhere in sight. There were only the diggers and crew left, and they were eating lunch. I felt badly. I apologized to the men for being late. I went to the side of the grave, and I looked down, and the vault lid was already in place. I didn't know what else to do, so I started to play. The workers put down their lunches and began to gather around. I played out my heart and soul for this man with no family, no friends. I played like I've never played before for this homeless man. And as I played Amazing Grace, the workers began to weep. They wept. I wept. We all wept together. When I finished, I packed up my bagpipes. I started for my car. And though my head was hung low, my heart was full. And as I opened the door to my car, I heard one of the workers say, "I have never seen anything like that before. And I've been putting in septic tanks for 20 years. I guess the moral of that story is ask for directions. We are always looking to the residents of the Cannon Valley to continue to give us direction. What do you want from Shepherd Center? What services are needed? Where are good places to travel to on our trips? Who would you like to see in concert? Shepherd Center of the Cannon Valley is here to serve the area's senior and the community, and like Sharon said, intergenerational. That's for sure. Thank you for the direction that you've given us. Please continue to do so as we look to the future. Our chairman, Lauren Evinrude, asked me to maybe point out what I was most proud of concerning Shepherd Center. That's a tough one because I'm proud of a lot of things. I guess if I had to pick one thing, I remember back of the board, and I tell you what, we got a lot of current and past board members here. Thank you all for your service. Wonderful, wonderful boards to work with. But I remember when we talked about actually hiring Ricky Skaggs to come here in concert, and this was a huge endeavor for Shepherd Center. And it was somewhat of a gamble. I mean, we're talking a Grammy Award-winning musician, unbelievable entertainer, but also very expensive to bring to Cannon Falls. And this was a tough decision for the board. And we talked about it a lot, and the board finally decided, let's do it. And boy, it just worked out very well. I mean, it succeeded because of the generous support of the sponsors and the generous support of the residents who came to that sold-out show. It was definitely a success. And our concerts have, as John said, definitely helped out our financial situation, and I really do think it's a win-win situation, because the way I look at it, we bring world-renowned talent to Cannon Falls. We hold it in our state-of-the-art high school auditorium, and the price paid for a ticket is actually helping fund the programs and services of Shepherd Center. So you pay the price of a ticket, you're at the same time, you're seeing a great show, but at the same time, you're helping support Shepherd Center. And like I said, looking back, we're proud of the entertainers we brought in right here to Cannon Falls. It's always a challenge to find the right talent to bring in. I always remember Shepherd Center, one of our trips we took to Nashville, and my wife Bernie and I were fortunate enough to host that trip. We had a great time. So we're in Nashville, and one of the stops we made was at the Nashville Dinner Theater. And we had a great meal, fantastic show. The headliner of the show was a fellow by the name of Tim the Fiddleman Watson. And after watching him perform, Bernie and I looked at each other. We were both thinking the same thing. It was like, we need to get him to come to Cannon Falls. So after that show at the Nashville Dinner Theater, I waited and till everybody was done getting autographs and taking photos and purchasing CDs. And when that was all finished, I approached Tim. And I said, boy, you know, I'd love to have you come up to Cannon Falls, Minnesota, and do a show. And he did have some friends in Minnesota. And first he said, you know, definitely not in the winter. I'm like, that's okay. So he didn't immediately say no, which was good. But he said, you know what, Rod? He says, I really don't have to travel anymore. He says, I've got the #1 show in Nashville. So he says, I'm pretty well established. And he says, I've traveled for so long, because he used to play with Tammy Wynette. He says, I don't know if I want to go back on the road again. And I said, you know, one time, you know, would you consider it? And I didn't know it was going to happen. I thought it was a good sign when he came onto our bus. I get on the bus, pretty soon here comes Tim Watson on the bus and greeted everybody. So that's a good sign. And when I got home, I emailed him, I called him, we went back and forth, and we were finally able to get him to agree. And he came up in August, and I remember I told him, I said, well, I'll meet you at the school. And he drove up in a motorhome. And he actually got to the school a little bit before I did. So when I get there, he comes out, and he's got this look of concern on his face, and he says, Rod, I just came from the field house. He says, there's no chairs set up. I said, nothing's ready. We got to do a sound check. I said, calm down, Tim. I said, you're not playing in the field house. Where am I playing? I said, follow me. So we walked in, and we come actually from the back part of the auditorium, and we walked onto the stage, and he stopped in his tracks, and he goes, whoa, Rod, I can tell you one thing. There is not a single school in the entire state of Tennessee that has an auditorium like this. This is awesome. So he was just thrilled, and like John said, we've had these performers have nothing but rave things, great things to say about the auditorium, and we're really fortunate to have a facility like that, and for the school to allowing us to use it as well. And you know, John talked about some of the performers we had in. Of course, we had Ricky Skaggs, we had Bob Wooten, who was a member of Johnny Cash's Tennessee 3, Ricky Nelson's twin brothers, Gunnar and Matthew, our most recent one, John Mueller with the Winter Dance Party. They've all raved about what a wonderful, wonderful auditorium we have in the town. Ricky Skaggs says, I'll come back anytime. So you never know. We might get him back sometime. But a proud moment for me also was, and I always remember this, it was right after Tim Watson's concert. He did a great show. I thought he did a great show. And I'm standing in the lobby. Everything's over. Again, another, you know, huge crowd. And a lady came up to me, and she said, Rod, you know what? I've always wanted to go to Nashville. But at my age, I realized it was never going to happen. She said, I just want to thank you for being Nashville to me. So that really was a touching moment for me. I thought that was pretty cool. But, you know, probably what I'm most proud of all is the Cannon Valley area residents who have generously supported the work of Shepherd Center for the past 20 years. And yes, there were definitely times when we sat at a board meeting going, how are we going to pay the bills? You know, how are we going to continue? And you know what? I don't know if it's through prayer or the good Lord above, but it always was okay. You know, the residents would come through, and we would get enough finances to continue. And yes, right now we're looking pretty good shape. We sure hope that keeps up. And it's been good though. I mean, we've been watched over. Before I wrap things up, and this was going to be the big announcement, but if you read one of John's slides, you might have already figured it out. Thanks, John. Our next concert, all right? And I believe the trend will continue of bringing in top-notch entertainment to Cannon Falls for our Shepherd Center's fundraising concerts. I've been working on this one, I think, since September. But mark down Saturday, May 16th on your calendars. You won't want to miss our next big event. The entertainer coming to town has songs that have been recorded by a number of country music's biggest stars: Jason Aldean, Rascal Flatts, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Lady Antebellum, and yes, Garth Brooks. She's toured the country with American icon Willie Nelson. She spent this past summer touring the United States, opening for Sheryl Crow, Dierks Bentley, and Eric Church. Just recently now, the Nashville Lifestyle magazine, I think a week ago, came out and said she is a rising Nashville act who will soon be a household name. Her latest album, Everything to You, brilliantly showcases raw, honest vocals and a wide range of musical versatility. Yesterday, Radio.com came out and said she is a radio sensation waiting to happen. Last week, I was sitting in my car in Bloomington listening to the radio when one of her newest song came on the radio. It's called Grown Woman. By now, you probably figured it out. Shepherd Center's next concert, May 16th, at the high school auditorium. We look forward to welcoming home our very own Cannon Falls native, Caitlin Smith. She will be here. It's going to be a homecoming concert you're not going to want to miss, and she is fantastic. And like I said, she's just really made it as a songwriter, and now she's really coming into her own as a performer. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I would suggest getting your tickets early, because I think we're looking at probably another sellout, but it's going to be a great night. This has been a special anniversary celebration this morning. Again, thank you all for being here and for helping Shepherd Center continue its programs and services. And here's to the next 20 years of seniors serving the community. Thank you all so very much. We've got a meal coming up, and stick around as long today as you'd like and reminisce and visit. But right now, before our meal, I just want to call on past Shepherd Center Director Todd Portinga. Todd, could you come on up? Maybe you want to share with us a few of your thoughts, and then when you wrap up, if you'd lead us in our invocation, I'd appreciate it. How about a hand for Todd, our second director?
Well, thank you so much, Rod. Boy, I tell you, it's amazing for me to have the opportunity to be here, to sit and to listen to everything that has happened here. This is an organization that turned my life around on a dime. I was a sheep herder, a real sheep herder, and I remember putting a resume together that I sent to Sharon and the search committee at that time. And the first thing on there was shepherd. That's what I was doing. I had a flock of sheep. So. And this organization, I think, informed some of my core values as I went to seminary. I wrote my master's thesis on older adult ministry as a ministry of resources for congregational life and for community life. And it was really based on our experiences here thoroughly. Seniors serving the community. That's really what it's all about. I've been at St. Olaf Lutheran Church now for 9 years, basically doing a lot of the same things that I was doing at the Shepherd Center. And I was talking with Marge Barnett here, who is I guess a former member of St. Olaf, and Dolores here too. I was saying they probably saw some things going on at St. Olaf that was described here today. The gallery wall is one of the things that currently happens over at St. Olaf, as well as instead of Adventures in Learning down there, we do a program called the St. Olaf Continuing Ed. Isn't that cute? At any rate, it's a blessing and an honor to be here with you today. Heraclitus once said that you can never step into the same river twice. And that's true in one respect. As I come here, it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and some new faces as well. That's the vital lifeblood, I think, of any organization is that continuous influx of new ideas, new life, new people, new involvement, so on and so forth. But I think that statement is probably not true in one other respect. You know, when I came to Cannon Falls, I just really experienced a community of such loving, gracious, kind, generous, wonderful, loving people here. And I don't think that's changed. I think you still are. And I pray that that will never change, that you will always be that kind, generous, loving, gracious, caring community that you are. So, and I just want to say thank you for hiring me so many years ago and for that opportunity that it gave me. It really meant a lot to me. So, well, shall we say a grace? Okay, well, let us pray. Oh, good and gracious God, for old friends, for new friends, for meaning, for purpose, for responsibility to help one another, for building community here in Cannon Falls, for the vibrant congregational life of all the worshiping communities here, we give you thanks. We thank you for the Shepherd Center, for all that it has meant for so many people. We pray that you would bless our time here as we have our conversations, as we reconnect, as we love and support one another. We pray that you would also bless all those in the kitchen who have prepared this food, are serving the food. And gracious Father, we pray that you would bless this food to your ministry here amongst us and in this community. And all these things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's eat.
How about a hand? Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here today, too. Means a lot. Really does.